Autoline Daily is brought to you by Bridgestone, passion for excellence.
This is Autoline Daily for July 14th, 2010, and now the news. In fact, make that lots of EV news. The White House is putting on a full-court press when it comes to electric vehicles this week. President Obama and most of his cabinet are fanning out across the country to visit facilities involved in electric cars and batteries. The president will be in Holland, Michigan tomorrow to visit the Compact Power facility that will make lithium-ion battery cells. More on that in a moment. The Secretary of Energy, the Secretary of Labor, the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, and the Secretary of the Department of Transportation are all out and about banging the drum for EVs this week. Ford announced yesterday that it will buy lithium-ion cells from Compact Power for the electric version of the Ford Focus that is coming out next year. That's the same source that General Motors will be using to make batteries for the Chevy Volt. Initially, those cells will be imported from LG Chem in Korea, which owns Compact Power, but then those cells will be manufactured at Compact Power's plant in Holland, Michigan, the same plant that President Obama will visit tomorrow. And later today, GM's head of product development, Tom Stevens, will announce details on the testing, validation, and warranty on the battery pack for the Chevy Volt. He'll also announce the SOP for the battery pack. That's industry jargon for start of production. Ever since Toyota started running into problems with SUA, that's industry jargon for sudden unintended acceleration, we here at Autoline Daily have been saying it's driver error, not gremlins in the electronics. Now the Wall Street Journal reports that initial testing proves that that is exactly the case. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has investigated a number of data event recorders involved in accidents, which show that the brake pedal was not depressed and that the throttle was pushed wide open, even though drivers claimed they had their foot mashed down hard on the brake pedal. This does not include incidents where the floor mat was trapped under the brake or problems with sticky brake pedals. And NHTSA has a lot more investigation to do. In fact, it did not release these details. The Journal broke the story. But we stick with our story. More investigation will prove this is a driver error problem, just like it was with the Audi 5000. North American supplier IAC, which makes interior plastic components for cars, is vertically integrating its business by developing its own raw materials. According to Wards, the company purchases about 300 million pounds of raw materials a year to produce its components. However, sometimes these materials are not up to par. That's why the company decided to produce its own raw materials, which I find interesting because these days it's unusual to see a supplier vertically integrating. Former Toyota and Chrysler executive Jim Press is now an advisor at Nissan-Renault. Actually, he's been there for the last 4 months, but none of us in the media found out about it. Somehow, they managed to keep it under wraps. Simon Spruill, the director of communications, contacted Autoline Daily to say that Press is working on projects related to sales, marketing, and distribution, not just for the U.S., but for the entire globe. Also, he is not working for one specific brand, but the entire Nissan-Renault alliance, which also includes Infiniti, Dacia, and Renault Samsung. Subaru's done an amazing job of weathering the recession. It posted record sales numbers last month, which were up 16% compared to a year ago. Overall, for the year, they're up an impressive 35%. Now, the niche Japanese automaker is looking to build on its success and broaden its appeal, at least according to AutoWeek. But I'd caution Subaru about trying to appeal to more buyers. In the 1980s, it tried to go down market with the Justy. In the 90s, it tried to do the opposite with the SVX, and both efforts failed. Subaru, don't mess with success. Stick to what got you where you are. Now for some Bimmer news. A report on Autoblog from BMW Blog indicates that the brand's high-performance M3 is getting stop-start technology amongst other model year changes. It'll also come with a switch so drivers can disable the fuel-saving feature if they don't like it. In a related story, Bimmerfest reports that buyers of the limited edition paint job called Frozen Gray that's going on the M3 have to sign a paint care agreement before they take delivery. The 30 owners, that's all they're making is 30 of these cars. They're warned not to polish or wax the matte finish or to run it through an automatic car wash. That will ruin the paint job. It goes from a matte finish to looking all shiny. Also, all the bodywork has to be done by a BMW authorized shop. Coming up next, we're going to take time for You Said It.
Introducing Bridgestone's third generation of run-flat tires with groundbreaking new Bridgestone technologies. Bridgestone run-flat tires offer improved ride comfort, lower rolling resistance, and improved wear while giving you the peace of mind and comfort you need.
And now it's time for You Said It. You know, we got all kinds of comments about the 5 finalists for the Car of the Century series that we ran last week while we were on vacation. I wish I could comment on all of your comments because there were big arguments about what vehicles did not make it to the final 5. G. Berman wrote in to say, "What? No Jeep? What were they thinking? If not the contribution to military action, how about the start of a whole new segment for the automotive industry? It's craziness, I tell you." Well, G. Berman, the original Jeep came in very high on the list. In fact, all the American and European journalists who were on the jury gave it a lot of votes. So did the Aussies. But the jurors from Asia and elsewhere did not score it as high, and that's why it did not make it to the final 5. Edwin Benson saw our story on Ford looking into using soybean oil to make rubber parts for cars and says, "Soybean rubber? Old Henry Ford I would be proud." Anybody remember that great photo of him taking a sledgehammer to the soybean-derived trunk lid of a 1940-ish Ford? Edwin, you got a good memory. That is a very famous photo. Henry was really into soy, and not just for cars. He also drank soy milk and ate soy ice cream. He'd even make guests and visitors eat it, and they would, even if they didn't like it, because after all, he was Mr. Ford. And Jim Reed saw our story on how Bill Gates has invested millions into EcoMotors, the company that's developing a radically new type of engine, and he wonders, "Hey John, do you know if any of the big automakers are interested in the EcoMotors engine?" Jim, I gotta tell you, your timing is impeccable. Tomorrow night, our guest on Autoline After Hours will be Peter Hofbauer, the guy who designed that engine. And he also used to be the top designer of diesel engines at Volkswagen. All I can say is, if this engine does everything they say it can, it could stop the movement to electric cars dead in their tracks. Tune in tomorrow night to learn more because I believe some big car companies are definitely going to be interested in that engine. And that's it for the top news in today's global automotive industry. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.